You're on.
You're good.
Well, welcome everyone to the November meeting of the Advanced Albany Alliance, County Alliance, sorry. I hope everyone has had an opportunity to read the minutes and review the minutes of the previous meeting. If so, is there a motion to approve them? Second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Terrific. Let's move on to the committee reports and Rich Rosen and the audit committee.
Yeah, good morning. The audit committee met previous to this meeting, reviewed the Bonadeo proposal to do the audit for our 2025, year-end 2025, and also review investments and do the 990. Everything's typical for what we've done in the past. There's been no changes to any audit regulations, so we approved a resolution to allow Kevin, the executive officer, to negotiate and sign documents to engage Bonadeo for the 2025 audit. And that was the results of the audit committee meeting
And there is a timeline where they expect this to be done by the end of March.
in March. Yes.
Are there any questions about that? Okay. We also had a very brief governance meeting, and I asked Tom Owen to bring us up to date.
Sure, we just we summarized that we had received the conflict of interest disclosure statements from the board members. Staff will follow up with the one that's missing. We stressed to the committee, which are all the board members, that this is an annual requirement, but that it is incumbent on the board members to update staff as their employment or board positions or other type of relationships change during the year, so that staff can help police any matters that could be brought before the board that involve something that a board member has an interest in. So that was it. So,
Are there any questions for Tom? And I don't think we need a vote for any of that. And you don't get a gold star, Laura, but you don't get dog.
Thank you.
So let us move then to the CFO report.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. In your packet are the year-to-date October financials. Starting on page 8 with the balance sheet, our total cash in the bank is $8.4 million. We did have 2 CDs that matured last week, so I'm in the process of setting up the new bank accounts at M&T as approved by the board. So that should go into effect this week or early next week. At that point, we will open up some U.S. Treasury bills for investments. Another item to note on the balance sheet is deferred revenue. As Kevin Testo had mentioned, that's a point of audit. We have $7.1 million in deferred. The majority of this is stage revenue that we will be giving out to recipients and some funds that we've received for the central warehouse demolition. Moving on to page 13, the actual budget versus actuals. Year-to-date revenue is $4.4 million. Of that, we have some stage grant income and our culture and arts grant income. Total legal and professional fees is $812,000, a little bit higher than budgeted due to central warehouse legal fees and professional fees. So in all, year to date, our change in net position is roughly $69,000. A couple of items to note, since the board approved the budget for 2026, there have been some changes in county funds that we will be receiving. In years past, the county was gracious enough to give us $500,000 annually for operating expenses. For 2026, this has been reduced to $250,000. Another item.
What was the reason for that?
I think the reasoning is the hotel
Hotel,
tax
okay,
and
okay.
Airbnb, which, to date, we've received 600,000 in hotel tax,
Okay.
so.
When did we find out about the Airbnb? When we get a feel
Next
for
year,
that?
I did see in the paper yesterday that they're now asking Airbnb and short-term owners to register with the county, so
So it's a
hopefully.
process yet?
Yeah.
We've been working with the county executive's office to get the language necessary that we have to put in for local law. So
Yeah.
next year.
So we'll have it'll all be tracked through an outside provider. It's just easier to provide that tracking in that way. It should have been a state system, but
So is this statewide?
no, each locality has to opt in.
Oh, you have to opt in?
Yeah. So the authorizing legislation allows it to be statewide, but each
Mhm.
local jurisdiction has to opt in.
I'm sure everybody's doing it, right?
Well, it's interesting because, not to go down the rabbit hole, but a lot of jurisdictions, and this is something that Caitlin and I dealt with intimately, had already cut side deals with some of the major providers. The reason we didn't do that is because there's more than just two providers now. There's more than just Airbnb and VRBO. So they were coming to us wanting to cut a deal with us. And we're like, yeah, but there's still bookings.com. And there's no, of course, there's certainly smaller players, but you can't predict the market and what direction it's going. In fact, Airbnb apparently is going through a rough patch right now. So we just kind of were like, let's just make it universal.
Yeah. Just curious, did they give you a number?
Yeah, I think we do have.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see what you actually collect versus the deal that you're gonna cut, yeah.
Hey, what did Dave Riley?
Well, between Airbnb and hotel tax, we budgeted $1 million for next year.
The article in the paper.
And remember, for us, now sales tax is on Airbnb too, which is all the more frustration as to why the state didn't have a registry, because they're already tracking sales tax on it.
Interesting.
Hmm.
So why wouldn't they just,
There we are.
here we are.
All right.
And then one other budget note, we were hoping to get 1.25 million in arts and culture as we did this year, but unfortunately that has been dropped to 150,000 as well for 2026.
And both of those were budgeted that we will now be readjusted.
Correct. So that's all I have. If anyone has any questions. Okay, thank you.
All right, and it's a pretty good package. So, if there are no more questions, let's move to the CFO, the CEO report.
Great, thank you. Good morning, everybody. Well, let me start off with the College of St. Rose. As you may have heard in the papers this morning or on media last night, we had another company express interest for a particular building, but this followed the presentation of the St. Rose redevelopment plan done by CPL. We have here, and basically in the report, it lists a series of 5 options and the pros and cons of each one. And basically the options run from option number 1 being do little to nothing at all on the campus and just kind of, reuse the existing buildings, to option 5, which is a much more intensive development, which would require clearing some of the land there and making way for other developments like 55+ housing, educational programming, daycare. There's a whole series of uses in here. So, the report also outlines the public engagement process that we went through for this. We held 3 public meetings, had, I think, 300 to 400 people, and between 250 and 400 people at each one of the meetings. Community very involved and active and interested in the redevelopment of the campus. And I think the consultants did a very good job on managing that process. And I think the process went very well. These are the kind of things where the opponents are the ones who speak loudly and tend to get the press coverage, and the overwhelming majority of the people in support of the project really never really get heard. But that's the way, the consultant summed it up, that this is, overwhelmingly supported by the community. And in particular, and this has been some controversy, the county executives moved to populate the campus on a temporary basis from the get-go. There's a few naysayers about that, but the overwhelming sentiment was in support of that because it got people back on that campus, those buildings back in use. And, we all know that empty buildings decay at an exponentially faster rate than occupied buildings. I think we're in pretty good shape. Now the real work starts. Now we have to start redeveloping the campus. Just to give you a brief update on where we are on that front, as you know, the county has made an offer to buy 5 of the buildings on the campus and relocate some of their operations up there. The county executive and the board agreed to postpone any decision on that until after the plan was delivered to the board, which happened yesterday. So I expect that that'll be on the agenda of the Albany County Pine Hills Land Authority board meeting for the December agenda. In addition to that, you've probably heard that the University of Albany has expressed an interest in purchasing Centennial Hall, which is a dormitory authority on Madison Avenue, one of the newer buildings there. And that was, again, received with overwhelming support of the community and neighborhood association. The university is a known quantity in the neighborhood. Their students are known, and the university is thought to be a high-quality operator and owner. So that is also, in the process. Lastly, we had the county executive announced yesterday the interest by a charter school in the city of Albany, the Henry Johnson Charter School, which is looking to increase their enrollment. They currently provide services from K to 4th grade, and they want to go to K to 8, and increasing their student population from 300 to some 700, and give or take. And they are interested in buying 2 of the buildings on campus, so-called Albertus Hall and the Science Building, which is really one and the same building. It's if you look on a map, it looks like one building, but it's in fact 2 separate parcels. And they have said that they would pay up to $6.7 million. So, just with those 3 transactions, the county, the university, and the Henry Johnson Charter School, we're in a position of paying off $24.7 million of the $35 million that we used to buy the university. So, pretty good progress out of the gate. You'll hear that the bond, the indebtedness is $40 million, which it is, but about four and change of that is what they call a debt service reserve fund, and that gets paid right back, and so there's no money that needs to be raised to retire that. So I think we're well on our way. We do have some other interest in the campus that I can't disclose in the public meeting here, but I think there's a lot of interest, and the question is whether that interest will translate into an economically viable, feasible transaction. As Tom will has helped guide us through this, any property disposition by the authority has to be pursuant to a series of rules and regulations, one of which is the issuance of the so-called 90-day statement. So we can't just go out and sell a building. We have to post that we're going to sell a building for 90 days, and in that posting, it's required that the purchase price, the appraised value, any difference between the 2 is explained, and that has to be submitted to various state officials just to make sure that everybody's aware and that there's transparency on any and all property dispositions. But we've issued the 90-day statement and it has expired for the county, but we've got approval to issue the 90-day statement for the university yesterday and for the Henry Johnson Charter School. So we're well on our way, and I think this is going to be a very exciting development. And, the basic change that I see happening on the campus is when the college owned the campus, when the college was in operation, it was kind of an insular, development. They wanted to keep the students kind of sort of on campus and keep the public out, because the natural friction of town and gown kind of dynamic. With what we're doing now, we're going to be doing just the opposite. We're going to be opening this campus up to the public. We hope that there'll be public amenities in here, that, whether there's a 55-plus housing development and all the amenities that go along with those. The county right now in the Events and Athletic Center is running a series of free programming, things like yoga, taekwondo, pickleball, Pilates, and a bunch of other things that are free to the public, first come, first serve. And, we expect to see more of that happening. The county executive has a vision of having a senior center in the campus, probably in the Hellman Library. The city of Albany, I didn't realize this, is one of the few cities around that does not have a senior center in the city. It closed some 15 years ago, from what I
Is it
understand.
the one it was the Betty Corning one, like over by Hackett Middle School?
I don't really know.
No,
I know it was ended during the Jennings administration, for some reason. So he's got a vision of seeing that happen, and there's just a lot of interest. The other big area of interest that we saw for this was for daycare services. Apparently, there is a dearth of daycare in the area. There are long waiting lines, expensive pricing, and the state passed some type of program, which I understand is not perfect, but is helpful for providing capital assistance for building a daycare center and children's services, pre-K and the like. So, but a lot of interest in the campus for that, and there's some space in the campus that's very well suited for that. So I think we're off and running. You have a contract with the Albany County Pine Hills Land Authority to help manage their assistance through our services. I serve as CEO of the authority. Amy serves as CFO, and Dylan and the rest of the staff here support a lot of the activities that are going on there. The other and final thing that the Albany County Pine Hills Land Authority approved yesterday was for me to negotiate with Albany County to step in to help manage the campus in the way of property management services. We don't have that capacity within the Alliance here. We've got, the College of St. Rose, I know from my term on the board of the college, it had 25 or 30 people that were involved in the maintenance of that campus. We have 2. And it's just impossible for us to do. But, the relationship with the county is so good and so close that I think we're going to be able to strike a deal. I have the county and their good offices, the building department and public works folks come in. They've got all the equipment. They have their own security people. So there's a lot that we can do here. If this didn't happen, we'd have to go out and hire a private property management company to do it. Again, we don't have the internal capacity to do it. So our staff, however this will go, I expect that we'll reach an agreement with the county to do the property management. Our staff will manage that contract with the county and make sure that everything is kept in some semblance of operating condition. As with organizations that are financially stressed, there's a good bit of deferred maintenance on the campus, and that's, that chicken is coming home to roost, if you know what I mean. There are boilers that are past their useful life, other things that need just constant maintenance, roofs, various things, and it's beyond our capacity. But we want to keep things, in an attractive state and a certain working condition. Keep the curb appeal high, so as we go out and redevelop this campus, it's looking like it's in good shape. So, any questions on the campus before I move on?
Have you explored, other than the county property management elsewhere?
No, we have not. We're going to go to the county first, because, they're gonna be the single largest owner of the campus. They have 5 buildings. But, there are plenty of other firms out there, and the irony of this is the county pays all these bills anyway. The county pays all the debt service on the $40 million outstanding.
Okay.
The county pays all the operating costs as it is now. So to have them do the management of it, it's almost.
That makes sense, okay.
Internal. Central warehouse, as I mentioned, we're still going along. We're expecting to be fully permitted and up and running with the environmental remediation, which will start first. We expect sometime next month. And then the demolition to commence, 4 to 6 months after that, which is how long it's expected to take. We did hold a public hearing of some of the businesses and residents in the district, somewhat sparsely attended. We held it at the American Legion Hall down in North Albany, where we had our contractors and engineers and staff there and answered the questions. There is not a single person who is opposed to knocking the central warehouse down. Everybody wants to see this eyesore taken down. The questions were more around, when will you be shutting down any roads or interrupting any traffic? There are some businesses down there that need to know, and we assured them that before any roads will be closed off, we will be in touch with you and make sure that access is available to their respective businesses. So that's on track, more or less. Ish, right. So any questions on central warehouse? Okay, well, let me, so again, you and I apologize, but you're gonna hear about this at every meeting because it is something that requires your continued attention. The single best industrial site in our county is the Altech, the old Altech steel plant in town of Colony. It is a Superfund site, as designated by the State Department of Environmental Conservation. We have negotiated a liability agreement to limit the liability of the Alliance originally and now the IDA from any future liability from anything that's happened in the past. And we've hired a consulting firm to help us do the GEIS, and they're here with us today. And I'd like to turn it over to Clayton Besh of our staff to introduce our consultants, who will talk a little bit about our process and what we can expect to see as a result of this. Clayton?
Thank you. As Kevin
Why don't you
pointed.
stand up? So.
Over here somewhere.
Yeah, just talk.
Eventually I'll find it. As Kevin said, that we are progressing with McFarland and Johnson to collect data for the seeker and the GEIS and the master plan. Just to also update, on September 8th, the legislature passed the resolution to transfer the ownership to the Albany County IDA, and the IDA has passed the resolution to create an LLC to manage the liability and operation of the site. It'll be a lease-back relationship between the IDA and the LLC. The county is also going to manage the outstanding taxes and also take responsibility for the upcoming colony town taxes. And one of the points I want to create is, DEC is also developing its site management plan and is releasing the 30% complete version. And they're expecting the Fish and Wildlife Department to complete the wetland report to be available in January, to be for the final version in January. And the final development plan will be available in the spring of 2026. So with that said, I'd like to ask Adam and Owen from McFarland Johnson to give a summary of what they've done to date on the site.
Morning, everyone. Adam Persino with McFarland Johnson, the project manager on our end. So I'm just gonna give some bullet points on what we've got accomplished to date. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to stop me and I can elaborate more, but I'm gonna kind of keep it high level for this meeting. So first of all, we started off with a kickoff meeting with the design team that we put together with Albany County Alliance. That was in August. We completed a bunch of site visits in September. We initiated a field survey, actual field crew going out there and doing all the mapping. That started in October, and actually this Friday, a couple days from now, we're supposed to be getting the base mapping for that to start to do a little more detailed design. Last month, we met with the town and the town supervisor to go over an understanding of how we're gonna go through the seeker process. We're in the process of developing a memorandum of understanding, an MOU, that will kind of outline the roles of each party as it relates to the county IDA, the alliance, and the town, and their respective roles and how we get through seeker. The goal of that being that the county is going to take on as lead agency, the county IDA, take on as lead agency to have a little more control over the process, and also, but still keep the town very well involved as an involved agency and having their staff still be involved. The whole goal of establishing that is that we don't want to go through seeker process and have a quote shovel-ready site, and then when a tenant comes in, it's not truly shovel-ready, and then we have to go through the town process again. So the point here is to have an understanding. May take a little bit longer to get through the process initially, but then once a potential tenant comes on board, we can jump right in and get all the approvals needed to break ground. So that's all in the works. As Clayton brought up, DEC has been involved in the project. We've been corresponding with them on a regular basis to try to get them to move along. It is the DEC, so they go at a little bit slower pace than what we're used to. But they've developed a wetland mapping that we are going to be using to develop our plans. They are going to be modifying that down the road. They're internally looking at the high quality and low quality wetlands. I won't get into all that detail. But as Clayton mentioned, we did get a draft copy of the 30% basis of design report from the DEC. That was a real good milestone. It does outline what their plan is for the site, helps us start to develop some of the concept plans on what could be built here. With that, we also, our design team in general, reviewed all the history of this site. There's been a lot of reports and technical documents that have been prepared, roughly in order of magnitude of like 100 documents. So we went through those, tried to figure out what was useful information for this next step, got it all cataloged. And then from that, we used a lot of the information we have to date to develop some really high-level concept plans that still need to be verified with the surveying and the wetlands and some of the other information from the DEC. But on that, we used the information from the previous EPA development plan to develop a similar layout that would look like, that would comply with that idea. We used the BOA study master plan and developed a similar layout that would kind of comply with what they produced back then. And then we came up with some of our own conceptual plans at this point. We call one of them we were referring to as our office park plan, with buildings roughly 50,000 square feet and less and creating more of an office park. One was an industrial park with buildings like every building a little bit more than 50,000 square feet. We did a single tenant concept where think about like we use like Regeneron plant as an example. And then we looked at like a technology park. We used Rensselaer Tech Park as kind of our so we kind of come up with some real big picture, what could the site look like? And we're going to refine it from there as we get more information going forward. I don't know, Clayton, anything else that I needed to hit, or is there not?
How about timing?
Schedule wise, so we're looking at, with our current schedule, having our generic site plan that we talked about, refine further to like what we're looking at, try to get that put together by the end of the year, and then going through the seeker process.
The end of which year?
the end of this year to try to get a concept site plan that we will base our GEIS off of. And then we're looking to start going through the secret process. Ideally, we would complete that by May 2026 timeframe. That might be a little bit aggressive. We'll see how well the town and everyone can kind of get through the process. With the ultimate goal of coming up with a finding statement by the end of the summer, August, September timeframe of next year. And then we'll be at our finding statement at that point.
So, again, this is a project that, is extremely strategic and critical to the county's industrial development. One of the things that we have in this site that we really don't have very many other places is the availability of power here. National Grid has informed us that they can assure us up to 60 megawatts of power here. That's a very rare and attractive thing. It doesn't come without some cost. A substation has got to be built there, and there's some time frame issues. But this goes back to the shovel-ready site analysis that Sandy Mathis did for us several years back, and identified, the Altec steel site as one of the critical sites in our county. And this is the kind of stuff we need to do. I'd say, Sandy, how long do you think before we actually are going to be able to start marketing this for tenants?
I think once we have a real good feel for the finding statement, so you're looking at this time next year, I think you could start marketing it early next year. You just got to be predictable with you got to answer the question. So also have a feel of how fun National Grid's going to be that dance, when you have a better feel of delivery. But you can do the construction a parallel track to getting the power ready. You just have to have credibility. So I think you can start marketing early next year.
So any questions for the consultants or Sandy or Clayton? This is what you're going to hear. And just so you know, the expenses that we're incurring to pay for all this are coming ironically from the Altec Trust Fund that Kevin Catalano manages for us. This is a trust fund set up, way back when Altec Steel got a loan from the U.S. Department of Commerce. And this trust fund exists in only two counties, Albany County and Chautauqua County, thank you. We've got up to $1 million identified in that program to help offset these costs, which is what we've been using to pay for all this. But there is going to come a point when the demand for the infrastructure on the side is outstripped by that, and at that point, I think we'll start. And Clayton and Sandy and I have already been in touch with the State Department of ESD, and as you may know, they have the so-called FAST program for infrastructure, and then now a new program which is known as Power Up, where they can provide grants to organizations like us to help get the infrastructure on the site. So, any questions for the team here, though?
I got a quick question. Thank you for the report. Good morning. So for the environmental impact statement, you're doing a concept plan. So you talked about different options, office park, innovation park. I'm sure you looked at it. So the concept plan that you're going to use for the environmental impact statement, is it middle of the road in all the concepts, or the most?
It will be the most, how do I describe this, Betsy? It'll be the
Most impactful.
Most environmentally impactful of all aspects of that's being reviewed in the GIS.
So it's a worst case scenario.
Yeah, so for instance, if one of them has a lot of building square footage, but is a low employment, then we'll use that for the building square footage. If another one has high employment, then we'll use that for the traffic analysis. So we'll use the worst case scenario of all the different aspects to set ourselves up for a variety of possible tenants.
Without having to go back.
Without having to go back.
Yeah.
The biggest thing is not having to go back.
And how you doing with traffic in the town?
So at the meeting with the town, they did emphasize that is going to be one of their highest concerns. So we are going to look at the previous completed studies for the BOA study, and they referenced a bypass road and things like that. We haven't gotten to that level of detail yet, but we are aware of the concern, and it's definitely one of the high priorities
Yeah,
on our task list to figure out.
okay, excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, and Rich knows from whence he's speaking here, if Columbia Development had not done this process at the Vista Technology Campus in Slingerlands, we would not have been able to land Plug Power there. Because they had, all of the environmental work done, they were truly a shovel-ready site. And Rich, from deal to opening was during the pandemic,
Yeah.
what, 9 months or something like that, 9 or 10 months?
Yeah,
It was amazing, and that just would not.
in two municipalities.
Right. Dealing two
But they were
separate-
great to work with, they really were.
Yeah.
And I think everyone will be motivated to see something happen out there as well.
The idea here would be that, Sandy was saying, we get a prospect, a major one and one that's consistent with our strategy. We're not trying to do anything for everybody. We're not looking to do data centers that suck up huge amounts of power and hire very few people. That we want to be able to talk to prospects about, okay, what do you want to do here? We go through the process and then we apply for site plan approval with the town. And hopefully that is going to be a streamlined and expeditious process, right, guys?
That's right, that's what the MOU is gonna establish. So we're trying to get that in writing.
All right. Ye of little faith. Okay, so that's Altec. Any other questions on Altec? Okay, so at this point, I'll turn it over to Tom to talk about the actual resolution for the management agreements. Tom?
Yeah, we have, as your CEO has referenced, we have 3 management agreements, professional service agreements in place with the IDA, CRC, and the Pine Hills Land Authority. And what you see before you is a resolution that would allow the chief executive officer to basically negotiate and execute amendments to those agreements, those 3, to increase the fees received by the corporation. And those numbers are provided for you in the resolution. So, subject to any questions, that's the resolution.
So have you all been able to read the resolution? Okay. Well, Tom's there to answer any questions.
So I'm assuming the fees were established based on expenses to date and historic data. I mean, you're just trying to keep up with what you're doing now because your role continues to expand and you're providing more support.
That's right.
Okay.
And there will be an ongoing, Rich, the concept here as we sell off buildings, there'll be an agreement that all purchases of the building, Tom, what do we call it again? The Managers Association or the?
Well, Board of Managers of Pine Hills.
Board of Managers.
Like a common.
So would be responsible for maintaining, that they would be responsible for paying into the maintenance of the common areas, parking,
Yep.
For landscaping, snow removal, things like that, everybody on there will, pay into that for those services.
So is there a motion to approve this resolution?
Make a motion.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Again, any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Tom.
That concludes my report,
Hey,
Mr.
Alan?
Chairman.
Yes.
Ellen, this is Joanne. I have one question, not exactly related to that resolution, which, of course, I support. But can we just, at some point, put a little pin in thinking about a similar arrangement when the Albany County Legislature passes our revolving loan fund for housing? Because we'll want to have the Alliance kind of construct a similar similar arrangement, with the, management of that fund also. It's not imminent, but it's gonna happen, before or early in the year, so we're gonna wanna do this, quickly in the first quarter of '26.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, into the,
Yeah, that's fine, Joey. We can do that and, maybe at one of our subsequent coming meetings, maybe we can go into a little bit more detail on the local law that is it passed yet or is it still under consideration? Under consideration and, talk a little bit more about the expectation. What Joanne is talking about here, folks, is, we all know the near crisis, condition of housing and in particular, workforce and affordable housing in our county as is with everywhere. And the county legislature has drafted a local law to get at some of those things. And you can think of this in the same way that we did the stage program. There was a local law that was passed first, and then following that was a series of regulations that were adopted and for the involvement of the Alliance in administering that program. So, but yeah, we'll put that on one of the coming agendas, Joanne.
Thank you, appreciate that.
sure. Is there we're gonna have a brief executive session?
Yeah, I do need to go over one item in executive session.
Yeah, we have one item. So, are we ready to, it's okay. Are we ready to vote to go, to close this meeting and then to go into executive session? Is that the right order, Tom?
Right.
Yes.
Tom,
So,
you want to give a little
Yes, sir.
preface? You ready?
yes,
So the reasons for executive session would be to discuss the potential disposition of real estate, the publicity of which would substantially affect the value thereof, to discuss the employment history of certain individuals, and also to seek and obtain counsel or legal advice from counsel. So those three independent reasons for moving to executive session.
okay.
So I have a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
I'll second.
Oh, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, then we'll move into executive session.
Okay. So if we could excuse everybody else in.